Today we're going to look at SFC and how that works, but let me start off with the big picture of how programming works. Normally we sit down in a pre-programming conference and the customer gives us their specifications, and just to make sure we understand it and we can communicate it back to them, we develop what is called an IPO chart, an input, process, output. So that's the first step in our program construction. The second one is to make sure that we understand the logic of the program, and so we do that in a flowchart. And a flowchart shows us what follows what. It's kind of a roadmap. From that we can develop pseudocode, and the pseudocode helps us decide on the language and the strength of the language and things like that. Once we have all three of those things in planning, we then go in and write our code, be it Java, Python, C++, Visual Basic, whatever it is. Then we test the program, and finally we release the program. So that's the big picture. Today we're going to look at SFC and how to write that flowchart. In order to get a better handle on this, you might want to download that Convert Inches to Feet PDF that goes along with these files. It's probably on your instructor's website. This is SFC, and I'm going to go to the button that looks like a little piece of paper and click on it. It's going to ask me to identify the program, so I'm going to say convert inches to feet. Author is me, and of course you'd put your name there, and the course is COP 1000. I'll just press enter to click OK, and this is our main work screen. Now the main work screen has got two parts to it. The left-hand side is the flowchart, and the right-hand side is pseudocode. Or at least we'd like to think it's pseudocode, but it's really not. Every time you start this, go up to the View menu and change it to Generic Style Pseudocode. Don't forget to do that every time. Whether I mention it or not, you need to go do that every single time. So now we've got Generic Pseudocode on the right-hand side. So this is our flowchart, and this is our pseudocode. And as we make changes to our flowchart, the pseudocode will automatically update. Isn't that cool? Anyway, as you'll notice on the left-hand side in our flowchart, we have three little gray dots. They're called hotspots, and each one of them controls something that allows us to either get a dialog box or make a modification to the program. So I'm going to start off by making sure that we have this entire program is going to be the main function. So I'm going to go up to the word start, and I'm going to double click it, and I get a dialog box. See, everything is active. And I'm going to go over to the dialog box, and this is going to be a function. So I'm going to click on the second dot, and by the way, you're going to do this every time. This is going to be every time. So then I'm going to say what kind of function is it going to be. It's going to be an int, or an integer, as we discussed earlier. And my return value is going to be 0. I'll press the tab key. You'll notice it says it wants to be a main function, and that's exactly what we want it to be. I'll press tab again. And then down here, I'm going to put the word void. That means basically that the function is going to take nothing in or out. It's going to do it all itself. And I'll just press enter. And now I've got the main function all set up. Every single program that I'm going to write is going to be 4 parts. That's just about it. So the first part is going to be creating the variables. Then we're going to have the input, the process, and the output. And we're going to document as we go. Some people document as they go. Some people document afterwards. But we're going to document as we go. So I'm going to put a comment right here and tell the user what this program does. So I'm going to double click, and now I get this wonderful dialog box here, and I'm going to go down to comment and click it and click OK, and now I can put a comment in that's going to tell the user what this is. And I'm usually going to precede my comments with a / because that's what we normally do in a programming language, especially C++. So I'm going to say / program requests user input for inches and converts to feet. And I'll just press enter, and there's my comment. Now my individual knows what this program will do. Now the second thing I'm going to do is put in a comment that says now we're going to make the variables. So I'm going to double click here and I'm going to go down to comment again and click OK. And now I'm going to start with a / and I'm going to say this is where we're going to declare the variables. And I'll press enter. So now I've got my declare the variables part. And how many variables do I need? Well, just 2. So I'm going to double click here. And when we want to put in a process, which is what is done internally in the computer during a program, that is called a sequential process, and it doesn't show. So it's going to be in a square box. So there's my sequential process already selected. So I can go down here and click OK or just press enter. And what do I want in there? Well, I want to tell them what type the data is. So I'm going to say this is an int, and we're going to have the user put in inches, and I'll press enter. There's my int inches. And what's the other variable? Well, we're going to convert it to feet, so I'm going to double click here. And it's going to be a sequential process, and I'm going to click OK, and I'm going to say float, because this may be a decimal, like 39 inches does not equal an even or an integer number of feet. We want to get that decimal in there too. So we're going to say float, and then we're going to name this feet, and I'll press enter. So we have now declared our variables. We are ready now to go get the input section. So I'm going to go down here and double click. And I'm going to make a comment, and I'll click OK, and I'm going to say, by the way, now is the input section, and I'll press enter. So for the input section, all we're going to do is ask the user for input. So if I double click on my hotspot, this is going to be an input-output, and I'll click OK. And what do we want it to really do? So we want to output the phrase, enter inches to convert to feet, and I'll put a colon and a space and another quote. So basically what I'm doing is putting up here what the user's going to see on their screen. Of course I'm going to have to spell it right, but that's immaterial. Now I've put that on the screen. I would now expect the user to come back and put in the number of inches. So I'm going to double click here on my hotspot, and this is going to be an input or output. This is going to be an input, so I'm going to click OK, and now my input is inches. This is not going to appear on the screen in the form of a message, so it doesn't need to have those little quotes in it. So now I've gone out, and the output to the screen was enter inches to convert to feet, and then the user input the number of inches that they wanted to convert to feet. Now I'm ready to process, so I'm going to double click on my hotspot, and I'm going to have a sequential process right here, and now I'm going to put my formula in. My formula is feet equals, and I'm putting spaces in here so you can see it easier. You don't have to put spaces. Feet equals inches divided by 12. Piece of cake. Press enter. And there's my entire processing. Oh, I forgot to put my comment in. So I'm going to go back up here, and I'm going to make a comment and click OK. And I'm going to put // and now I'm going to put in processing. So I'll press enter. And now I've got my declare variable section, my input section, my processing section, and now I'm ready for my output section. So my output is going to be input output, and I'll press OK. And what do I want it to do? Well, I want to output feet. That's the name of my variable. And I'll press enter. Oh, I forgot it again. I've got to go back and put in what my comment is, don't I? So I'm going to click here for comment, and I'm going to put a // and I'm going to say output. So now I've started my output section. See how flexible this is? It's wonderful. So now I'm going to go down here. I output my feet, but you know, a number appearing on the screen doesn't have much meaning. So I'm going to double click here, and I'm going to give it a label. So I'm going to output my label, and the number is going to appear there, but I want it to output quote space feet. In fact, I better say it's going to be output. So I'm going to output quote space feet. So it's going to say like 3 space feet, and then I need to close with a quote at the end of that so that we know it's a whole phrase or a text that appears on the screen, and I will press enter. Now I have everything completed. I don't think there's anything more needed. So let's review quickly. I've got start, my int main void. Here are my 2 comments, one to tell the user what the program does, one to declare the variables. Then I'm going to declare my 2 variables, int inches and float feet. Scroll down. So now I'm going to go get my inches. I'm going to say to the user, enter inches to convert to feet. And once they do that, they're going to input inches. Now I'm going to process. I'm going to take the feet variable, and I'm going to say take the inches that the user put in and divide it by 12. Then I've got my output section, and my output section takes the output of the variable feet, puts it to the screen, and then follows it by a space and the word feet. Now the convention here is that when we finish, it's going to return 0. We actually created that in the very beginning when we defined our function, our main function. So that's going to be by convention. So there's some of these things that aren't going to make sense until we really get into the programming. But the best thing about this program is not that it's so easy, but look over here to the right. There is my pseudocode all ready for me to use. Cool. Now you go try this one.